Hi, Randy, the mobile home guy here again today. Today we have a DGAT furnace. We pulled it out of the home, of course, and we have it here in our shop. We're just going to do a total teardown of this unit, but on this particular video that you're watching, we're just going to do the inducer motor, the combustion air motor, or the pressure switch, or the combustion air switch. All of that pressure system is right here on a DGAT furnace, so we're going to have this pulled out, and we're going to see what it looks like and how to maybe put it back in by just reverse engineering what we do on that. Also, we're going to totally tear down this furnace, so if you're interested, we'll have more videos about this whole unit being pulled down, and you'll be able to see inside the heat exchanger. We're going to pull the heat exchanger apart, we're going to pull all of these parts off, so there'll be other videos if you wanted to see all of that. Okay, so here we got the DGAT, and we're looking at the pressure system. We're looking at the combustion air motor or the inducer motor, those kinds of things. What it does is it pulls air, and if it's bad, if you found that it's bad, then we need to replace that, obviously. But one of the things you want to check and make sure is that you don't have a bad combustion air switch. So sometimes the motor's working fine, but the switch isn't actually closing. So what I've done sometimes is you can bypass this switch by, once the motor comes on, you put those two wires together, and if you have great flame, then your motor might be fine. Now obviously, to test it perfectly, you need a magnet helix tester to test the air coming out of it. But what this motor actually does is it pulls air from the roof, and we can look at that here. What you have here is, this is top of the heat exchanger right here, and this is where this goes out to the roof. This comes in from the roof. So right here comes in fresh air, out bad air. So in air here comes down this little piece right here, down here, and there's two little holes in this thing, big holes actually. Comes in here and back out here. There's a squirrel cage in there, and it pushes air and pulls it down here into a little hole here and across into the burner assembly, and adds oxygen to the chamber in there. So we're going to look at replacing this whole thing. We'll pull it out. So there's three screws here. Two screws here and one in the back here. The one in the back there is kind of a pain. So these are 5/16. So this one you might need a ratchet for to get right at it. You just kind of, obviously, you kind of get right at it there. It's kind of weird spot. So this keeps coming off for me. I got that one there. And then the two ones right here. Now let's look at the wires here. We're going to pull the two wires off. Now they don't matter which way they go back on there. So if I went like that, that would be okay. And if I went like that, that would be okay. Either way, back and forth. So we'll pull this off, and then we'll bring it over to the table there, and we'll pull it all apart and look at that. There's one. Obviously, we got to pull this little tube off. Just set it to the side. Okay, so there's that. Put that little screw back there. Obviously we can see the two holes. It comes out and in. And same thing here, and a little squirrel cage there. So we'll come over here to the little desk here, and we're going to pull these screws off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nothing on the motor. You're going to maybe see some things on the motor here, and we're not going to be able to pull those off. So if you look in there, you can see that that's spinning really good. Let me grab a screwdriver here. I need this little, once we get inside. So obviously we're going to pull these ones off here. Let's do that with the screwdriver, make it a little quicker for you. Okay, and this just comes straight out like this. Now there's a little rubber gasket right here. Be careful with that. You don't want to have to try and rebuy that part, because that's a headache to try and find those. So be careful with that. And so we're going to look here. There's an Allen wrench. It's a 764 Allen wrench. I'll have my piece here, and sometimes you gotta, let me grab a wrench right here. Sometimes you just gotta give it a little right there. And again, you can do that, you can put some WD-40 right there, and you don't want to hit that obviously with a hammer or anything, so you're going to probably have to fight that a little bit. WD-40 or penetrating oil. I don't love penetrating oil. It doesn't always work for me for some reason, but we're going to resave this, so we're going to set it over to the side. We're going to resave this little gasket here. We're going to kind of pull it off really super carefully, okay? And it only goes on obviously one way. Then you have two screws right here. to make sure that we pull this off and put it back on the same way it came on. So if you have your other motor, sometimes just set it right here. You're going to pull this off in the same way. Obviously you're going to have it setting the same way like that. You're just going to kind of take this here, you're going to pull this off, and say we had the other motor, we're just going to put it right on there because we want it exactly back on like it came off. So then we're just going to reverse that whole process. One of the things you want to make sure is when you do put it back on that you don't bind up the little gasket there, because then it kind of will hit the fan blade there with the squirrel cage, and it'll slow this down and won't pull the pressure that it needs to. So there we go. If you just want to reverse engineer that to put it all back together, and so again we're going to put this on there very nicely, and we're going to find the flat spot of the shaft. It's going to go right on the screw. We're going to tighten that down, give it a little snug tighten there. And now the hard part, there's two hard parts, getting this back on and getting that screw out of the bottom. So this is the one that's kind of feisty here. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Let's see, and one of the things, I just want to keep going on this a little bit to just make sure that before you get this back in, what you've looked at is obviously that it's not hitting the housing, because right now you'd want to redo that if that's the case. So let's look really quick. So obviously you want to save this little gasket too. This is kind of a little gasket, but make sure that it's not hitting anywhere close inside of there. So then we'll know we're good, and then we're just going to put it right back on and we'll be all ready to go. If you do have a DGAT furnace, a DGAT, and then a few letters, obviously, and numbers afterwards, just talking about the size of the furnace, BTUs, and those kinds of things, it's mostly affecting, I'm talking about the recall, it's mostly affecting the 70s and the 75s. But check this right here, dgatprogram.com, or call this number right here with option 1. If you're a contractor, 6 after that, so option 1 and then 6. This will talk to you a little bit about what they what they have available and kind of what they're going to do for you. What they're really doing is they're not sending, if you can find a contractor that will come out and inspect your furnace, they will give you $100 towards replacement. But there's some other things you might want to learn about your furnace, why it needs to looked at, and that it does need looked at, and hopefully it's great. But it does need looked at, and they are paying contractors to come out and look at those. So use up these numbers if you have a DGAT furnace. Also, here's the recall. The DGTA program, DGTA, DGAT. Okay, so if you do have a DGAT